Oh, there's a glare. Just ignore the glare in my glasses. It's fine. What's up? It's Bradley in editing again, because I can never do everything right the first time. So I just moved into my dorm. There's going to be a lot of air conditioning sounds going on in the background, because it turns on and off randomly, and we don't have any control over it, so that's unfortunate. Also, there's a glare in my glasses, and you're hearing a little bit of an echo every now and then. I'm trying to figure out the best setup to make sure that it's as technically sound as possible, so until that happens, just ignore all the bad things. I hope there's not as many. So I know I'm fairly late to the party, but I just haven't been following everything that HBO has been doing for that long. So I'm late, but whatever, because I watched Chernobyl, and wow, it's amazing. Before I move on, I want to tell you, no, ask you, beg you, please do not watch this video if you are planning on watching Chernobyl. Going into the series, knowing almost nothing about it was an amazing experience, and I highly recommend it for anyone who wants to watch this series. It blew my mind. It took my breath away, everything about it. Just, you need to watch it. I don't want you to know anything that I'm going to say in this video if you haven't seen the series yet. So huge spoiler alert right there. Please go watch this before you watch my video. So I watched Chernobyl in 2 sittings. I watched 3 episodes one night and then 2 the next afternoon. And I wish I watched it all in one sitting because it feels like that's how it demands to be watched. Kind of like the Lord of the Rings trilogy or 10 straight episodes of The Office. You just need to watch it all in one sitting. I wanted to know more specifically about Chernobyl. I mean, I'd seen a YouTube video here and there. I knew a little bit about it. I know what happened. I know where it happened. I know kind of when it happened. But other than that, I didn't know much, so I wanted to know more, and this answered every question I could have ever asked, and it was perfect. A piece of film is only as good as the people that are behind it, and the most obvious showcase of talent is the actors. Jared Watson as Legasov, Stellan Skarsgård as Boris, and Emily Watson as Yolana all have career-defining performances that are easily the best in their life. Those are 3 transcendent performances, but every side character feels like they deserve their own show as well. I had to pull up the cast list, but you've got Dyatlov played by Paul Ritter, Pavel played by Barry Kogan, and, let me say this right, Lyudmila Ignatenko played by Jessie Buckley, who it was nice to see acting in something this good after I had to watch this monstrosity. More specifically, Emily Watson does a great job conveying the fact that Yolana is both the smartest and most clever person in the entire show. She's always calm and collected and conveys urgency and seriousness with little to no effort seemingly, and the slightest change in tone and cadence can go a long way, sometimes too far, but Emily Watson does it perfectly. Jared Harris's role as Legasov is probably the most likable Soviet character I've ever seen, maybe except for, our boy Alexei. This is probably because his arc results in him defying the policies and wants of the USSR. It's hard to believe that this isn't a real person we're watching. This is a character. And you forget that so often with so many different actors. These are actors playing the real people. But you can't even tell because the actors are doing such a great job. Legasov doesn't stay as calm and collected as Yolana, but he can perform under pressure, and these character traits wouldn't be there if it were not for the fantastic acting by Jared Harris. His ability to approach every scene with intensity and conviction works wonders, and it results in a character that's easy to root for and sympathize with, who's also able to assert his authority with his intelligence and matter-of-factness. Finally, you have Boris played by Stellan Skarsgård. This is a man who believes everything that the less than qualified officials in the USSR tell him, and that's how he's gone about his business for his entire life. Once he teams up with Legasov to investigate the Chernobyl disaster, he starts to realize that he's been lied to his entire life, and the Soviet policy of bending the truth until it becomes reality is flawed and results in even worse outcomes. Boris hits his breaking point on a phone call after a German robot malfunctioned on the roof of Chernobyl because the Soviets wouldn't tell Germany the actual amount of radiation the robot would be facing, leading to an unprepared robot and a subsequent fail. Boris goes on to have a heated phone call where he criticized the choice to not reveal their weakness when they're seeking aid. A very weird strategy, and he decides that that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. The heated exchange on the phone would not have had the power and intensity that it had if it were not for Stellan Skarsgård's performance. These 3 actors really made the show. To summarize, when watching Chernobyl, I didn't see actors. I saw real people, real characters, real emotion, real reactions, and it's just a small piece of the immersive experience that was Chernobyl. There's nothing worse than when an exciting story is told in a boring way. It's a case of missed potential. And HBO knows this, and they do everything they can to make sure that its full potential is reached. That's exactly what they did in Chernobyl. They put their most intense foot forward. The very first scene in this entire series includes a clock ticking, and it feels like it's ticking down to something, as if something bad's about to happen. And if you've seen the show, you know that it definitely does. A common technique for intensity throughout the entire series is the use of decimeters. They click and beep faster and faster and louder as you get more and more radiation. Every time a character has a decimeter and they're going into an area with a high amount of radiation, the sound mixers boost the sound of the decimeter to make sure you can hear it and to make sure it brings on a sense of uneasiness. As it gets faster and louder and faster and louder, you start to feel like you're getting closer to certain death. Even though you're not the one experiencing what's happening, you start to feel like something bad is going to happen, and you can't help but feel like it's going to happen to you. As the decimeters get louder and louder, you get very stressed. And I hate stress as much as anyone else. But weirdly, it's a good thing as a filmmaker, or showrunner in this case, if you are able to bring on a feeling of stress to the viewer. And that's the goal of this type of content, to make the viewer feel as if they should be stressed, as if they should be feeling pain, as if they should feel uneasy. They want you to relate to the people that you're watching on the screen so you can learn something from it. Ultimately, they want you to understand the pain and suffering that this disaster caused. And it works. There's no example of tension more perfect than the fourth episode, 90 seconds sequence. The scene is done over one take in 90 seconds, which is the same amount of time that the workers have on top of the roof to clear debris until radiation takes over and they're past the point of no return on a trail of death. The choice to shoot this in one take makes everything feel so painstakingly long. 90 seconds turn into 90 minutes, and you feel like they're on that roof forever. The decimeters that the workers have are clicking constantly and constantly, louder, faster, louder, faster. They start to slow down, and you feel like you can breathe a little bit more, but then they start to pick back up again. You're never safe in this sequence. The camera work is shaky and chaotic. The sound mixers focus on the decimeters to make you feel uneasy. It's a torturous scene that you are relieved when it's over. It's a torturous scene, and there's a feeling of peril the entire time. And it's a masterpiece of a scene. As I'm recording this, I'm realizing how unhappy the entire thing is. And it's so strange that something this sad and torturous can be so good. It just goes to show the power that telling truth and being realistic to what actually happened can move people in unbelievable ways. Anyways, let's just move on to the last part. There were multiple points in this entire series that I wanted to scream at the characters because they were doing something so dangerous and so reckless, but they didn't know any better. Everything I've talked about so far has been about making me feel as if I was in danger, and that is the true nature of this kind of content. I want to talk about two different moments where I felt the most emotion, and the first one was actually in the first episode. In the first episode, people in the nearby city of Pripyat decide to gather on a railroad bridge to get a better view of the nuclear plant that's currently on fire. While the adults are standing on the bridge, the children are running around and playing, none the wiser to what actually is happening right now. And then this radioactive dust starts to fall from above, and it looks like snow, and the kids treat it as such. We know that it's not snow. We know it's radioactive material that could kill everyone there. But they don't know that. It's the same kind of situation that irony brings on in literature, when the audience knows something that the characters don't. It's a painful feeling. You want more than anything in the world to be able to tell the people that you're watching what's actually happening, what danger they're actually in. And you can't. This feeling goes to show how realistic this entire show makes it feel. To be watching these events happen. You think they're happening in real time, and that's how this show affects people. It's a truly heartbreaking sequence, and so early on in the show, you know that this is going to be a bumpy ride. Oddly enough, the only other sequence where I felt this much emotion was after the show ended. As per usual with most movies and TV shows based on true stories, there's clips of information, pictures, and videos that are played before the credits that kind of give you an update on what's been happening, what actually happened, and just provide a little bit more information. And most of the time, it's pretty good information. You know, people live happy lives, happily ever after, get a job, graduate college, do whatever. And in Chernobyl, it could not be further from that. Before the sequence, we hear Legasov's last recorded words being, "What is the cost of lies?" And we are given the cost of the USSR's lies in this heartbreaking 6-minute sequence. This might be the most powerful and emotional 6 minutes that I've ever watched, and I have a long list of stuff that's in that sequence, so I'm just going to read that off real quick. We're told that 600,000 people worked in the exclusion zone, but no records were ever kept to determine their fate. 300,000 people were displaced from their homes in Pripyat and other nearby cities for what was called a temporary amount of time, and it's still forbidden to go back there. Of the 400 miners that worked to prevent a nuclear meltdown under the plant, 100 of them or more died before the age of 40. Cancer rates spiked as a result of the incident, especially in children. And even worse is that one of the men who were in charge when the incident happened at Chernobyl was permitted to work at another Soviet-owned power plant in just a couple years. The Soviets claimed that the accident was freak and would never happen again, and they also resisted any changes in safety protocols that would allow this to never happen again, and anyone who told them they were doing the wrong thing would be punished. Their arrogance and pride were so strong that they couldn't for 1 second admit that they had done anything wrong or out of the ordinary. One man's incompetence and an entire government's stubbornness led to so many lives lost that there's no telling how many actually died. The range is between 4,000 and 93,000. And to make matters worse, the Soviet Union wouldn't even admit that they were at fault for that many lives lost. Their full death count since 1987 has remained unchanged at 31 people. 31 people, the Soviet Union says, died as a result of Chernobyl. They won't even give the people that died as a result of the incident the honor or the recognition they deserve for being a soul that was lost in the entire incident that could have easily been prevented. All this information is very heartbreaking and hard to take in, and while it's being displayed, eerie and somber choral piece is being played in the background that rises up and down in volume, kind of like the Decimeters. In the end, the credits roll in silence, a tribute to the people who lost their lives in the Chernobyl incident. This was a very hard show to watch, and an even harder show to talk about, but that doesn't necessarily make it a bad show. I could never thank the people that made this show enough for giving the people that lost their lives in Chernobyl and its aftermath the recognition and the story they deserved. This is truly a work of art that has significance beyond the screen, and it is just perfect. This could be the easiest 10 out of 10 or 5 out of 5 I've ever given, and it's weird that something this dark and heartbreaking would be rated that high. It's just so powerful, so moving, so much was put into it, so much is being taken out of it, that it's impossible to consider it anything less than a masterpiece. Please, please, if you have some reason watched this entire video and not seen this yet, check it out. It'll change your life. So there it is, my first video after the 100 Movies project. I'm gonna have like a channel introduction and like a goals video coming out soon, but I just haven't been able to do that much. I moved into college, started doing schoolwork, and I'm just now finding time to film. Trust me, I've been wanting to do more stuff. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Bradley, and I'll see you later.